And we'll start letting people in. Let me just double check that everything's going out there. Almost. Refresh. Perfect. All right, time to say hi. Hello. Hello, my friends. Great to have you all back here for Piano Tech Radio Hour. Good friends, new and old. I see Kevin Clem, regular. Good to see you. Nancy Salmon. Great to see you. I see Lou Delbaney hanging out here, right? Great to have you back, Lou. Larry Lobel. Carl Lieberman. Awesome. All right. Well, we're filling out. We're letting people in. In just a minute, I'll give the introduction to our session today. And why don't I feature our team for the day? So there will be myself and Morgan Cowell out of, it's Omaha, right? You're in Omaha? Mm-hmm. Good old Omaha, Nebraska, which is fun because that's where David Anderson is from. Mm-hmm. And let's see here. And our guest for the day, Jason. All right, good. So let's admit Johan Krebs before I get started. And then we'll start with our introduction and get on with the show. So welcome to Piano Tech Radio Hour. We gather here every Saturday to meet with and learn from the most fascinating and knowledgeable folks in the piano world, including manufacturers, rebuilders, musicians, makers of other instruments, and more, and of course, piano techs. Our mutual goal is to become better at our craft, helping each other and create an ever more musical world together. Piano Tech Radio Hour is brought to you by Piano Technicians Masterclasses, an online learning resource that brings you cutting-edge instruction from piano industry masters without leaving your home. You can find out more at pianotechniciansmasterclass.com. And today's session features Jason Castle. Is that how you say it? Castle?
It is indeed. Yeah.
Very good.
It's like the building.
There you go. He currently serves as piano technician for the Brigham Young University School of Music. He graduated with his MA in piano tech from Florida State University and earned his BM in commercial music from BYU. Jason has served as a senior piano tech for the Aspen Music Festival and has received training from Steinway & Sons, Mason & Hamlin, and Yamaha. Jason is an RPT, and he recently received the Jack Greenfield Award in recognition for his publications, which include over 24 articles. Folks, you got to get out there and get just one on the books, I think. It's pretty impressive. And an ebook on harpsichord maintenance and 5 instructional DVDs on oral tuning. So, Jason, great to have you here on Piano Tech Radio Hour.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Oh, show. I'm going to let Morgan maybe kick it off with some introductory questions, then we'll get in the convo. And for a little bit of a spoiler, maybe at about half past our session time, we'll get into a presentation that Jason has on some historical tunings. And of course, if you have questions, your own questions along the way, you can just pop them in the chat and we'll take those into consideration. So I'll kick it over to Morgan.
Hey, thanks for being here. So just give us the story. How'd you get into this crazy profession?
I was really fortunate, actually. So I went to Brigham Young University as a student, and I was a music major. And I knew 2 things. I knew I wanted to do something with music, and I knew I wanted to make a living. And beyond that, I was kind of open to anything. And I was really fortunate to find piano technology while I was there. So Brigham Young University has a student program. We hire students to work in the piano shop and teach them on the job. And so I was actually in a music business class that forced me to come up with not plan A and plan B, but plan A, B, C, D, E, and F. And I had to come up with these different career options that I might be interested in pursuing. And I couldn't think of anything past the top three. You know, I knew I had a couple of things I wanted to do, but I'd never really been forced to sit down with it. And so I'm really indebted to that professor, because I don't remember if it was number 4 or number 5, but it certainly wasn't in the top 3. I wrote piano technician as an option of something that I might be interested in doing. And I thought I would never have to think about that assignment ever again. But again, I'm indebted to this professor. He said, your next assignment is to interview someone at least 10 years down each of those paths. And so I ended up interviewing Keith Kopp, who was the head tech at the time at Brigham Young University. And he offered me a position as a student employee, and it just took off from there. I just absolutely loved it and realized that it could fulfill both requirements. I could do something in the arts and make a living. And the cherry on top was that I enjoyed doing it.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's
really
fascinating. I'm like, and I also imagine you did those other interviews as well. Is that correct?
I did indeed. And they were all, that assignment alone was one of the best things I ever did in college. It just put me out there in touch with incredible people across the industry in these different fields. But certainly the one that gave the most return on the investment of time was meeting with Keith.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's called best practices typically. It's like if you want to be the best dentist, like go to like 3 towns over, find the best dentist and like go buy him lunch, try to do that. So that's really great that schools did it. I think that should be a requirement for most professions. Like even in high school, that would be an interesting thing to kind of instill in kids and get them thinking that way.
Right.
So then you, what was next then? You went to Florida State. Was there anything before that?
So before that, when I graduated, I got my RPT certification. I called it my double major because I was finishing up my degree, but also practicing and taking mock exams. And so I was working on them simultaneously. When I graduated, so my degree's in recording, commercial music, recording studios. I said, okay, I was working part-time in a recording studio in Utah, and I was tuning part-time, and said, by that point I had gotten married and said, my student loans are going back into repayment. What I need is a real job. And so I said, I'll jump at the first real job that's put in front of me. And so I went to the national convention, which that year was in Denver, so not too far from Utah. My wife and I drove out, and that's where I met Greg Chang. And so he pitched the idea of moving to Philadelphia to work with Jacobs Music, who's the Steinway dealer in that area. He said, we'll continue your education, send you up to the factory, get you some miles under you, you'll be tuning 4 or 5 pianos a day, 5-6 days a week. And I said, done, I'll be there. And so we moved to Pennsylvania and lived there for a number of years. Our son was born there. And it was when our son was born, we realized that we did want to be a little closer to family. And lo and behold, my wife is from Florida, and the only graduate program in the country for piano technology is Florida State, which was all of an hour and a half from my in-laws. So we just saw the stars align there and left the job that we did love up in Pennsylvania, but then went to that graduate program, which was 2 years. And in the summer, that's when I did the Aspen Music Festival between semesters. And by, just providence, the timing worked out so that when Keith Kopp retired from Brigham Young University, I was finishing up my degree at Florida State and was able to come back to Utah and take that place. So now I get to pay it forward and give exams and hire the new generation of student employees here at Brigham Young. So it's been a beautiful, a crazier story than we would have planned on, but just absolutely beautiful how it worked out. And we're really happy to be back in Utah, and for the opportunity to work with students and to work with Rick Baldison, who's also here at BYU. So it's just been really, really great.
That's fantastic. So do you think that you would have gotten the job without the master's certification from Florida?
I don't know. I was younger than all of the other applicants by a decade. I think that the master's set me apart in a way that said, this guy's younger, has less years of experience, but the experience that he does have is really, really slick. I think it was that master's degree plus Aspen was another one of the selection committee had piano faculty on it, and he knew many of the people who were teaching in Aspen at the time. And so that I think resonated.
Is that
So who was
program
heading
at
that
Florida State still going on right now?
It is indeed. Yeah, it's kind of weird. Basically, what it came down to is they needed to hire another piano tech, and the university said, no, we don't have a budget for that. So Anne Garee, who was the head tech at the time, said, hear me out. What if instead of hiring another full-time tech, we hired 2 students who worked 20-hour weeks, and we could pay them with a stipend and a scholarship and offer them an education in piano technology. And so the university sat there and went, wow, actually, that would be great. That would give us 40-hour weeks, but the budget is so different. Now it's a scholarship. It's not we don't have to insure these people. They just said, this is beautiful. We can get the help we need and provide this unique service. So it is going on, but they only take 2 people every 2 years. So they take 2 people, then those 2 people graduate and they're replaced. So it's far from robust. It's not like North Bennett or something like that, where they're able to take on a larger student class.
So what's the prerequisite for that program? Like undergrad, obviously, but
yeah, an undergrad
in piano skills.
An undergrad in music is preferable, because you actually are getting a music degree. While I did take piano technology classes, I also took music theory. I also took an ensemble. I took music history, right? So you're still taking the same classes that any other graduate music student would take. So having an undergrad in music, and then other than that, you have to know how to tune. They don't want you to start at square zero. You need to at least know how to tune. Do like if you had an in-home level of service, basic repair, basic regulation, basic tuning, then that's enough. They'll take you from there.
Okay.
A lot of the classwork is focused around shop work, which was great because I didn't have a lot of experience with that, because I had done mostly institutional work and dealer work and in-home work. But you don't have to necessarily have that experience in advance. But they do need you to tune, because that's the reason you're there. That's part of why you're there. That's why you're there. But admittedly, working 20 hours a week for the university for the stipend, you get paid to do it, but it was part of the education, right? Tuning for recitals, tuning for piano faculty. Well, that's a different kind of tuning than tuning for Mrs. Jones's spinet,
Absolutely. So let's go down to the BYU thing that you had now. So what's that like?
So the BYU program is not as formal as it once was. You used to be able to get an associate's degree at BYU in piano technology, but that's been many decades ago now. It's basically a student job. We'll take students, we'll train them, and kind of work with them one-on-one to see if they have an aptitude and an interest. And those who stick through it and can tune a piano, we hire. And then we are able to work with them, and we try to focus on hiring, freshman, sophomore, so that we get them for a couple of years. And typically our students are RPT level and beyond by the time they're done, that we let them, bore and hang hammers and restring the pianos and do the field service requests through the practice rooms. And so they're tuning about half the time they're on the clock, the practice rooms and faculty offices, and then the other half they're in the shop alongside us, working and getting paid because it is a student job, but also being educated and getting exposure to this stuff. So it's great, and that's how I started. So I'm a believer in it, obviously.
Sure. You have to be enrolled though into college with an undergrad major.
Yeah, you do have to be enrolled in the school to be accepted as a student position. Yeah.
Okay.
So I've heard that it's, at least in the past, it's not something that the university is going to advertise out there. Hey, come here and learn piano tuning as a student. It's more, if you just happen to be a student, they let the students know that this is a possibility. And that's where the techs are called from. It's not like a training. It's not advertised as a training opportunity. I think that's what Keith told me. And maybe there's some intentionality around that. I don't know.
Well, we would love to have 10, 15 students, but we have a budget as well. The shop does. And so we tend to have about 4. students at a time. So what we do is we just kind of vet them in advance to make sure the ones we do hire on are really committed and have a high aptitude. But yeah, it's not really a program per se where it's like, come to BYU, learn how to tune, but if you're coming to BYU anyway, it's the best student job I know of.
Interesting. And that's really important because, as we all know, there's very few schools left anymore that are dedicated to the craft. So I know there's someone in Texas that's doing kind of a similar thing. I think Corbin's doing something down there.
Corbin's doing one. I think North Texas has one similar as well.
And I've heard of a couple other. I know Greg does something at a community college.
Yep, in Philadelphia. Yeah.